Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Chagigah daf Chavav, we are going to begin on the bottom of Chav Hayim Beis by the Mishnah. Min hamodiyin v'lifnim. A person who is from this location of Moedian and inward toward Yerushalayim, nemadim al klicheres. Those individuals are believed when it comes to earthenware vessels. Now, how far is Moedian? So Rashi says it's the name of a city which is 15 mil away from Yerushalayim. Says Rashi, Shi Asher below Haim. It's impossible without them. Yerushalayim ein oisin kivshoinais. The problem is that there were no furnaces in Yerushalayim, and they ha'ashan because of all the smoke. Lo l'tzid v'lo l'kaderos. And because they didn't have these different furnaces, and didn't have these different places to prepare these vessels, because it would have blackened the beautiful walls of Yerushalayim. We made a gezerah. We believe them that we don't make a gezerah, because it would be impossible to withstand it. So therefore, we were lenient when it came to Moedian. However, mina Moedian l'chutz, outside of Moedian, einim madim. At that point, we do not believe them, and therefore, we're not going to say that it's tahar. To ketzad. So how do we understand this Mishnah? So he says, Hakadosh shehu moicher hakaderis. So if you have a potter who sells pots, nichnas lifnim mina Moedian. As long as he's inside from Moedian toward Yerushalayim, so hakader v'hein hakaderos v'hein haloichin nemon. So he is believed, as well as the pots, and also the buyer who sees him come in is believed. Yotza ino nemon. However, once he leaves, then he's not believed. Says Rashi, the chaverim who saw him, that he came in, that they'll believe him. However, once he leaves to return, he's not believed. Okay, so now let's see the Gemara. So Tana, Moedian, when it comes to the city, sometimes it has the din inside. In other words, the question is, the Mishnah, what is the din of the city itself? We know that inside, close to Yerushalayim, for sure, it's Ner Nemon. If they're far away from Moedian on the outside, they're not Nemon. So the question is, what's the din of the city itself? So on this, the Gemara says, sometimes it has the din of Nim, and therefore they're Nemon, sometimes it's not. So Ketzad, Kada Yoitzer v'Kaver Nichnas Kol Nim. Let's say the person who was the one who made the pots is going out. However, the buyer, who's the chaver, is entering, then we say it's lifnim, because we say that the chaver is lifnim, so therefore we will say it's okay. Says Rashi. What does that mean? Pamin kilifnim, kader yoitza, mulifnim min hamodian. Because so he was near Yerushalayim, v'nichnas Moedian. He's going out toward Moedian. V'chaver bo mechutz Moedian, v'nichnas Moedian. So they're going opposite directions. So because they kind of like met halfway, but one was further away from Yerushalayim, on the outskirts, and the other was inside, but they were going from the inside out and the outside in, like going toward Yerushalayim, and they met in Moedian. So in that case, if the kader is the one who's leaving, but the chaver is the one who's entering, so then we say klofnim. And therefore, Rashi says, "Muter likach memenu sha'akeda lo yachser oy lo charav ve'im lo achshav yikach emosai." We see, because the potter is leaving, so he's going, and that's it. He's not coming back to inside Moedian. So therefore, since we see his actions, he's leaving, going out. So therefore, we're going to believe him. However, mashma, if let's say the chaver is going out, but we see that the kader is going in, we see he's not nemon. And it makes sense because he's going to go within anyway. So then maybe just wait until he passes through Modi'in, and now he's closer to Yerushalayim. That's when you can buy. Shneim nichnasin. Let's say both of them are entering. O shneim yotzin kilchutz. Not only that, but if both of them are leaving, so it's kilchutz, not neman. Even if both of them are entering, it's kilchutz. So Rabbi afanam and tanina. Well, chayra, that is also like our Mishnah. Says Rashi. Let's look at this Rashi. Hoyel matzu lifnim v'shom lo lokach menu lo yikach oyed v'koshkin kader nechnas v'chaber yotza. Certainly, if we see that the kader is entering, so in that situation, hoyel v'soif hakader chanos lifnim, as we said before, since he's definitely going in anyway, yachser hachaber hitzach likach v'yikach. So he's going to go back, and he's going inside anyway, so he's not neman at this point. So in other words, the only time we're going to believe in Modi'in is dafka in a situation where the kader, the potter, is going out. He's leaving Yerushalayim, and he's now in Modi'in. So that's it. If you don't buy it now, that's it. He's not going back inside anyway, so you might as well buy it. So Amar Rabbi Afanam Tanina. Our Mishnah L'Chayra is a right to this. It says like this: A kader shemachares hakaderis. A person, a potter, is selling his pots, his vessels, v'nichnas lifnim min hamoidin, and he enters inside. So then he's neman. Now taima the lifnim min hamoidin. The only reason why he's believed is because he went inside. Mashma hamoidin gufalo mehiman. So mashma, he's not believed in the city itself. So he have a seifa. It seems like a stira because the Sefer says Yotza Eno Nemon. If he leaves, he's not Nemon. Homodim Gufa Nemon. Allah Shema Minah Kan Bekada Yotza V'Chaber Nechnas Kan B'Shneim Yotzin Or Shneim Nechnas and Shema Minah. It must be to reconcile this, whether that Moedian counts, that is Nemon, is davka in a situation where the Kader is Yotza. If he's leaving, the Chaber is Nechnas. Tana. Nemonim B'Kli Cheres Hadakin. So we also say that this person who's the potter, Amaretz, he also has an element of nemanis when it comes to a small earthenware vessel, l'kaidish, when it comes to the dinim of kaidish. Says Rashi, hadinad min amodin lifnim nemanim al kli cheres b'kli cheres hadakin. Amru, shi'er shabloiheim. They're necessary. So therefore, again, it's otherwise we'll be in trouble. Aval Gasin, says Rashi, can go in chavias liyayin, a big barrel for wine, and naman el b'teich Yerushalayim. There, they're only believed in Yerushalayim proper. So the whole heter of possible if nim modi'in is daf when it comes to these small earthenware vessels. Amr Shlachish no, Amr Shlachish, he says behushin nitlan biyada achas. They have to be small that you can actually hold them in one hand. That's the definition of a small kli. Even if you're not able to hold it within one hand, nonetheless, the din is that it is it's still considered to be a small kli, and therefore you're neman. That we believe this guy within lifnim hamodian is el reikanin. Davka, if we're talking about an empty vessel of a malayan loy, but if the vessel is full, so then we're not going to believe. Rabbi Yochanan, no, feel malayim, even if it's full, feel apikursosoi l'soichai. Even if his apikursus is inside of. What does that mean? It says Rashi, feel malayin mashkin shaloi shinu shel kodesh. Even if he has something in it which is not kodesh still. The Yomer Rava umayde Rabbi Yochanan b'mashkin atzman shehin tameyin. That even if you want to tell me that the kli is nemon, but we're going to say the liquid inside is tamei. Not the tama. Don't be so amazed by that. Shari login, moli mashkin, login tamein, tameis shiva umashkin tahirin. It's possible that we could find that, as we just see, that one thing is tamei, the other one is tahar. Says Rashi, shemaiti etzel kli cheres. When it comes to kli cheres, hamatzel samashkin, shibaseicho, it's matzel, the liquid inside of it. So covered up kli cheres, the liquid inside is tahar. Vein matzel kol kli shetef. It doesn't help the kli itself. The kli is matamatum shiva, but what's inside of it is tahar. So we find that it's possible that the kli and the contents of the kli may have different halachic statuses. Question 13. Be'elu be'elu kli cheres. These earthenware vessels, plig Rav Yochanan Shlokish, im nos mehem chachamim ne'manis la'ma'aretz l'kodesh min amudim lifnim. So the question is, if it's a kli shein niton biyado achas, it's not so small, it can't be held in one hand, and also it's kalim meleim. If we're talking about large vessels, so that also is the next situation where we have a machlokas. Okay, right then, let's now see the next Mishnah. Good. There's a lot of Mishnayos over here on this daf. So the next Mishnah says like this: Hagaboyim, the tax collectors, says Rashi Yisrael, Shein Gaboyin l'melech nachor ligvois me'ad Yisrael. So he is appointed to collect money from a yid, shenichlos l'osach habayis, and he goes into a person's house to take these things. V'chein haganavim, so to thieves. When it comes to the din of thieves, shechaziras akelim, when they return the vessels that they took, nemanim loimer lo niganu. They're believed to say that it was not touched. Says Rashi, nemanim loimer shlo nogul seichel kodesh nemanim. When it comes to kodesh, they're believed of a little truma. The kol masnisin a chaymer bekodesh mitruma kaima. So over here we see that we're more strict by kodesh. That in this situation he's he says it. We say he's neman by kodesh. So again, this is a chaymer bekodesh mitruma kamayri. Fine. So when it comes to truma, he's not believed. When it comes to kodesh, he is believed. They didn't touch it. Yerushalayim nemanim ala kodesh. When it comes to the city of Yerushalayim proper, so Gemara is going to explain what this means, but they're neman on kodesh. And v'shas regel afal truma. When it comes to the time of the regel, they're also neman on truma. Okay. Raminhi for the Gemara hagabayim shenichlos habayis. If you have tax collectors that go into your house, habayis kuli tameh. It says the whole house is tameh because we say that, as Rashi says, shechazaka hagabayim mamash mishim b'kelim. They're going to be touching all your kelim. So why would we say that he has any nemanas? Lokasha. So if there's a nachri b'hadayu, if there's a nachri with him, he's not believed. Because he's very scared about the Emas HaMelech, because he can always be reported. If he's by himself, he is none. Im yesh nachri mahen, if there is a nachri with him, nemanim loimer lo nechnasnu. He's only believed to say I never entered. Once he actually entered, he's not believed to say, yeah, I entered but I never touched. So what does this mean if there's a nachri? What's the problem? So Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Lezer Chada Eimer Amos nachri lehin. The problem is that he has a fear of the king, of the nachri. The nachri is going to end up reporting him. The Chada Eimer Amos malchus lehin. He's afraid of the king. So my benayu kubenayu nachri shenu choshev. If we're dealing with a nachri who's not choshev, says Rashi, Emaso Yuleka. He's not afraid of him, but Amos Malchus Ika, because you can always have him reported. So we believe a Ganav returns a Kalim. If he enters into your house, we say only the place where he actually physically walked. We don't have to assume that he went through everywhere. Once we know specifically the place where he walked, so that area is tummy, but nothing else. But we still see that he's not neman. So how can we say over here he's neman? So Rav Pinchas is read a Rav Kishasa Tshuva. We're talking about this is he's nice to Ganav anymore. He's not a Ganav. He did Tshuva. The fact that he's already returning it already shows that he has remorse and he's done Tshuva. And since he's done that, he's not going to lie. And that's the reason why he's believed to say whether something is tummy or not, or if he touched it. Yerushalayim nemanim al kodesh. In Yerushalayim, they're believed on kodesh. So Tana nemanim a kli cheres gasin lekodesh. So we said above that when it comes to a kli cheres daka, then from Modin inward we're lenient. However, when it comes to a kli cheres gasin, we're strict, and therefore it's only neman in Yerushalayim. Fine. Of course, Rashi is v'koshkin dakin. Of course, v'kol kach lama. So why is he so believed? Shein Eisin Kivshainis Rishalayim. As you said, because we don't make furnaces in Yerushalayim to maintain the integrity and beauty of Yerushalayim. The problem is that now we're not going to have any of these vessels, and we need them. Shasa Regel af al hatruma. So during the Shasa Regel, we even accept truma. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Yimekra v'Yosef kol ish Yisrael el ir, that they assembled ki ish echad chaverim akasav oisukul chaverim. So we see that they're all considered to be like chaverim in this regard. Okay, next Mishnah. If a person opens up a barrel, in other words, to sell wine, so as he starts selling wine from his barrel, as for that matter, he began to sell his dough al gav haragel during the regel, which we said he's neman then. So it's a machlokas if he's able to be yigmor, if he can finish it. Says Rashi, the af ami aretz memashmishin. So the question is, because amaratzim are touching it, so the question is, after the regel, is he allowed to continue the process? Since he's believed during the regel, can he continue after the regel? And so some machlokas. So Yosef Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Akil the Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. They were sitting by the tent of Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. Pasachad, the armor one opened up and said, Mahu shenichenu regel acher. So this is what we said. Could he leave it over for the next regel? This was a Gemara we saw previously. In other words, if he's not neman after the regel, so why does he just leave it for the next regel? So the other one said, Yad hakoil mamash mishin ba. Everyone's touching it. V'yad amred yad hachinu regel acher. Save the next one. Similarly, atu what? Ad inna lav yad hakoil mamash mishin ba. Everyone was touching it. So why are we saying during the regel it's tahar, and after the regel, okay, it doesn't make sense. Makes no sense. It shouldn't be tahar because everyone's touching it. So then why would it be tahar during the regel? I'm like hakash the bishlam ad in tumas am aretz b'regel rachman tahara. There's a Xeris HaKosovos, you just saw, the pasuk says that they're considered to be tahar. Elahashta Tamehi, but now they're tamei. So Nebuchadnezzar, the Tani Chada Yanachano Regel Acher. One says you could leave it over. Tani Nechulinachano Regel Acher don't. So Ma'al Tanai Hilucharetz Machok Tanai. Below. Hadid Tani Yanachanu. That which he says leave it over for the next regel, Rabbi Huda. Hadid Tani Loinichanu Rabbanan. So it's this machokus between the Shittas of Rabbi Huda and Rabbanan, whether or not a person can just leave it over or not. But Tizbra Rabbi Huda Yigmar Kaimer. Our Mishnah says that even after Yom Tov, he says Yigmar, you could leave it over. So you can't tell me that this machlokas is totally the machlokas of our Mishnah. Rabbi Huda. Rather, when it says don't leave it over, that's like the sheet of Rabbi Huda. That's why he says finish it. That you leave it over It doesn't mean leave it over. It just means that you don't need to leave it over, because according to the sheet of the Rabbanan say lo yigmor, don't complete it. So my lo yinichena. So what does it mean? V'haditani Rabbana, v'haditani yanichena, leave it over Rabbanan. So my lo yinichena, don't do it. Shein tzarcha hanicha. It doesn't mean don't do it. It just means you don't have to do it. Okay. Took in Rashi. Let's see. Okay, all right. Let's just gear up. Next Mishnah. Misha'ava haregel. So once the holiday is passed, Mavirin al taharis azara. Everything is removed out of the azara in the base of Mikdash for purification process. Says Rashi, Mavirin es hakelim. All the kelim need to be removed because again, amaratzim are touching it, etc. Hilchah says Rashi, la'acha haregel magatoma mafreya. We say retroactively everything was tummy through it's being touched. However, let's say the Chag fell out, finished on a Friday, because the Kavod Shabbos they're not going to take it all out. No. Also, if Yom Tov ends on a Thursday, Shana Kohanim Penuing, because they don't have time, they're not free. Not free for what? Says the Gemara, Tanashain HaKohanim Penuin Mohaitzi B'deshin. They don't have enough time to be able to remove all, because they're so busy removing all the ashes from throughout all the holiday from the Mizbeach, so therefore because of that we're not going to be matahar on that day. Keitza, next Mishnah, last Mishnah. Kesemavirin al taharas azar. So we say we remove all the kalim. How do we do that? So matbilin as a kalim shoy b'mikdash. So again, we immerse all the kalim that are in the mikdash v'oymrim lehem, and we would warn the am haaretz and say the following: His haru, please be very careful as we continue chavavu b'beis. Shlo tigu b'shulchan. Don't touch the table. The shulchan is more problematic, and Rashi says this is obviously referring to Kohanim Am Haaretz because they enter into the Heichal, but Yisrael is not allowed to go there anyway. So obviously, when we say don't touch the table, we're referring to Kohanim. Kol Kalim Shahoy B'Mikdash Sheshahem Shnim Shlishim. When it came to all the Kalim in the Beis Hamikdash, there was a second one, there was a third. She'im Nitmu Harishayim Yavushnim Tachteim. There was always replacements just in case one got tameh or got ruined. So therefore, there's always duplicates. Kol kalim shoy b'mikdash tu'unin tefillah, and all the kalim needed immersion. Chutz mizbech hazam mizbech nechayshes. The mizbech zahav in the kodesh for the kataris, the mizbech nechayshes, which was outside of the kodesh, that which was done for the karbanos. Memdei shehein kikarka. So because it was like land, so we know that karka cannot become tameh. So too, this mizbech. The Gemara is going to explain this because really you'd think pumfakert, because it's plated with a metal, maybe that's why it should become tameh. So we'll see the Gemara. We'll have to see the Gemara in tomorrow's daf to answer that question. Tana, his haru shaloi shema tigu b'shulchan of a. We tell them, don't only be careful touching the shulchan, I also want you to be very careful not to touch the menorah. So our Mishnah only mentions the shulchan, doesn't mention the menorah. Why not? So shulchan ksibe tomid. By the shulchan it says it has to be there all the time. Menorah ksibe tomid. So since it says the word tomid, so we have to be more careful because the shulchan always has to be there. And if it becomes tameh, it's a big problem. Says Rashi, when it comes to the menorah, you could always immerse it. It always needs to be there, day and night. When it comes to the menorah, it says me'erbad boiker, which is mashma. There's a time during the day that you're okay, that you could be toivel, and it won't be a big deal if the menorah is removed. The menorah that the menorah needs to be opposite the shulchan. So so the menorah also has to be there. So it's just telling you where it should be placed. The shulchan's on the north side and the menorah is on the south. But typically, the kli eitz. Why don't we say that when it comes to this kli, this shulchan, it's considered to be hasul nachas. It remains stationary. B'chol kli eitz hasul nachas lo matama. So we're saying when it comes to the mizbeach, says Rashi, di'in nami noga b'shulchan. So he said, oh, don't let them touch the shulchan. Don't let them touch the shulchan. What's the problem if they touch the shulchan? It's not going to become tummy because the kli eitz. It's made out of wood and it's asul nachas. It remains stationary. And it's almost like a din karka. It doesn't move. So my time I do it with a sock. Be'inan mat sak matalta malay berekim. Mavko matalta malay berekim. It has to be comparable to the pasuk of Tomas sak. And sacks can be moved when it's empty or full. A shulchan, because it's so big, it's not something which is moved generally, and therefore because of that, it's considered to be asula nachas. It's not moli. It's not matalta malay berekim. So therefore, because as Rashi says, it's kli eitz hamaksik mem saw balach shehin kurayim biyavesh. It's so big, so something like that isn't stationary. So dinami matalta malay berekim, who even want to tell me that's matalta malay berekim, the truth is you could. So hainami matalta malay berekim, who could Rish Lakish. The Rish Lakish might have said al shulchan hatahar. It says on the shulchan which is pure, the pure table. What does that mean? Machal shehu tameh. It's mashma clear when it comes to the shulchan, it could become tameh. So the question is why? Right? Didn't we just say v'mai kliyetz asul nachasu ve'en mechabel toma? So it goes against what we're saying. So we clearly see the fact that it says the shulchan hatahar, it's possible to not be tahar. So why isn't it considered to be a kli that's stationary? A malamid shemagbiin oiso, that we lift up the shulchan umarin bol oil regalim, and we show it to the people who come, and we show them the lechem upon him. Look at the great love that Hashem has for us. That just as it's taken off is the way that it's put on. And namely, what that means, Rashi says, that this is one of the nisim, that it remained fresh, it remained warm, nothing changed. Yomi Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that it remained the same, it remained fresh, it remained warm. That it was still warm on the day in which it was divided. And therefore, for this reason, we're going to say that the shulchan is potentially going to become tameh, and it's not considered kli hasulei nachas. So we're going to stop there. Our next daf is extremely short. So let's see question 14. Mahu makar min haTorah d'shamina minei shehayu magbiin es hashulchan lo reglayim laharas chibas lefnei hamakoyim. This is because the pasuk says it says that's shulchan hatahar, which means it's tameh. If they didn't lift it up, it would be considered to be a kli eitz hasulei nachas. So therefore, the fact that it was moved, it's not considered to be a kli eitz hasulei nachas. So that's the answer to number 14. TA 15. Gaboyim shenechnasu labayis ha'im nemanim loimer shel nagu b'soicha kelim l'kodesh. So he said, if he didn't do tshuva, then they're not believed. This is like a softball question. If they didn't do tshuva, then obviously they're not believed. However, this is talking about a case where they did tshuva. Kishasu tshuva, and as we said, dekanami, because it says shechziru asakalim. So our Mishnah is talking about the case where they're neman, because we're talking about where they're returning it. So obviously, if they returned it, they're not going to lie. They want to have a full repentance. Okay. Okay. There's one more question for there. TB 14. Gabayim shenechnas l'bayis v'lochu kelim masna ne'emanim loimer shel nagu l'soichai. And he wants Rashi also. Im machmas tshuva hechziru nemanim. V'im lav eno nemanim. The ein nemanim el l'kodesh v'lo l'truma. So that's the extra curveball. I only got half right for that. I wasn't expecting that. But they're only believed when it comes to kodesh and not by truma. So this was TB 14. And we have to make sure we see this Rashi. Nemanim. It's again dafka by kodesh, but not by truma. Okay, let's see Rabbi Giver's test. This is Masechta Bechina. Question 71. 75 questions. Matai e neman hagabai hagoiva masamelach leimer nechnasi evelo negati. If he went in with a nachri, he did a good job. Okay. Lomas Rabbi Yehuda to be Yom Chamishi le'achar haregel de'ein matarnes hazara. Since the Kohanim have no time, since they're still busy removing the ashes from before. Question 73. Ha'im mazhirin hakohanim ha'amarat l'regel shel yiga b'menorah. So I wrote machlokas because our mission only mentions the shulchan. Actually, it is correct. Lomo chashiv hashulchan kli eitz hasulei nachas. Question 74. Since the shulchan isn't in one place, they would lift it up and show to everyone the miracle of the lechem upon him remained warm. One more question. Actually, this is the last question. Esa kalim bebeis hamikdash ein tu'unin tefila. That's beferish in our Mishnah. The mizbech hanachayshis, mizbech hazahav. Adkan.